were criticizing it. It is inflated, and I don't want to go into the details. Maybe I'll rate them someday when these matters are resolved. So, if the average time it takes between consumption of a dam to doing visibility studies, then tendering for its construction, commencement of construction and completion, the average time it takes is not less than 20 years. Now, Uganda's installed electricity capacity right now is about 1,820. I hope a few dams have come on board and we are 2,000. Our peak demand is about 1,300 now. Our effective supply, if you put on every dam and put them work at the same time, maximum we can produce is 1,500, 1,450 megawatts. Am I correct? Yeah. Basically, I should tell you, Uganda has run out of electricity. Why? Because especially when your source of electricity is hydro, you are advised to have a buffer depending on the hydraulics of anything between 25 to 40% excess electricity, the difference between your effective supply and your peak demand. Because if you have to repair a turbine to do service, or there's an accident or whatever it is, and some turbines are switched off for service, for repairs, for maintenance, whatever it is, you should be able, so you have maybe taken 10% or 15% of the electricity off, you should still be able to make your peak demand. So right now Uganda has no excess electricity as people think. So if it takes you 20 years to commission a dam at Ayago, which is going to produce 700 megawatts, so we are going to have to increase the electricity from 2,000 megawatts, 3,000 in the next 20 years. You get what I'm saying? But for us to grow the economy tenfold, it means that our electricity demand will grow from the current 1,350 megawatts to 20,000 megawatts. So we need 20,000 megawatts to achieve Museveni's vision. But our government capacity to deliver that electricity in the next 20 years, let me say a maximum of 2,000. There is a big mismatch between your demands and your capabilities. Now that is the realm of strategy. Strategy is how do you match your ambition with your capabilities, with your resources. By the way, that is the definition of strategy. That these are my aims, these are my means. Do the means afford me to achieve the ends? So, if you asked me, Uganda government, as currently constituted and run by President Yoweri Museveni, cannot achieve any of the ambitions that he articulated yesterday. Let me conclude by coming to the issue of corruption.
Let's come to corruption later, Andrew.
Yes.
Let me bring in Honorable Segona. Honorable, the President has coined words like Chisanja hakuna mchezo. This one he called it Chisanja no sleep, no corruption. What is the symbolism in what he's saying with some of these things?
Well, I don't want to sound like people who have been out of politics, because normally whenever something is bound to fail, somebody says it's a political statement. At a political level, that's what he has said. He said, Chisanja hakuna mchezo, meaning no jokes. His boys and girls joked and even played in the iron sheets. And we saw what has been happening. For some 10 years, I used to teach under Professor Osavalunywa. He would force me to set an exam, but before you submit the exam you're about to administer, you'd have to generate a marking scheme. Now, when General Museveni sets the exam, he gives us the marking scheme by which we are going to judge him. And this is not the first time. As Andrew said, this is the 9th time he's making a pledge to Uganda. And actually, I do not even call it a pledge, I call it an undertaking to Ugandans. 9 times. Now, if your judgment is that in the last 8 times he has been scoring 8 or 90, then you're right to trust him this time round. Somebody asked me when I said this, that, you know, who are you to judge him when Ugandans have judged him? I said, fine. If you asked me that, Timothy, I will ask you, why did you call me, not those other Ugandans? You would go to the clock tower, is it Constitutional Square or something, somewhere? Call Ugandans and ask them for their opinion. Now, like Andrew, I want to say, I do not want to judge him by the past. If I were to judge him by the past, I would say he has miserably failed. Part of the failure could be internal, inherent within him, that he's not able to deliver that. Part of it would be the surroundings. I mean, you and I and the other people, as Andrew said, we are not pious, we're not holy. We are a very difficult lot to deal with. You know, I was following the eulogization of the late Honorable Helen Nachimoli. One of the government ministers said, oh, this lady has not been transactional. I tried to buy her, but unlike others, she refused. So I said, I don't know, it is his judgment. And I asked a question. You have a government minister that says that he has been buying politicians to cross over, and this person is on the streets walking the following day without writing a statement.
Which minister, to be precise?
My young brother Balam Barugahara. I would have no problem going to the police to stand surety for Balam if he had been summoned to explain further and where he has been getting the money from. You have a group of ministers that are accused of feasting on iron sheets meant for the poor in Karamoja. Poor Nandutu is in the coolers. You may find others escaping. And I think I've addressed this issue here. That one does not point to a government that is serving with both dedication and distinction. And our corruption, which you hinted on, but also our planning. When I was chairing the Public Accounts Committee, we visited a mega electricity generation plant in, is it called Nyagak? Nagak. No, Nyagak was, okay, whichever it is, in northern Uganda. We found that we had paid millions of dollars. Electricity was generated, but we had no connecting poles and cables to evacuate that power. And in West Nile, where it was meant to go, and the bigger part of northern Uganda, we were paying another private company to generate electricity, thermal. Now, on the one hand, you are paying for this electricity. You paid for it to be produced or to be brought to that level. But you do not have the means to evacuate it so that it serves those people. That points to planning. Let me talk about agriculture, which is basically the backbone of our country. Recently, I was in Nairobi, and an Uber driver told me, in Kenya, if you don't work, you will not eat. Then I remember and contrasted with a statement my brother Joel made, that Uganda is so good that if even fools survive. Because if you don't have food, you walk into Andrew Mwenda's house during lunchtime, you walk away satisfied man. In the evening, for those that eat dinner, you walk into Professor Banyua's house, you walk out a satisfied man. Now, because of that, we need to take advantage of agriculture, which is our backbone. First, produce food to feed our population, but also produce food to sell to the neighborhood. I am a farmer. These young people normally say an upcoming artist, upcoming farmer. The Kenyans told me they feed the animals and birds with food produced in Uganda. When you go to ask for a liter of milk in a Kenyan supermarket, you'll get it at the equivalent of about 7,000 Uganda shillings. In Uganda, a liter of milk is only 2,000 in urban areas or peri-urban areas. No, I am a farmer myself. Yes, but I'm selling. I sell my milk for 2,000. And people tell me, if you go to Western Uganda where there is a lot of milk, a liter would even go for 900 or at times 700 shillings. What is the problem? The problem is not that Munyankore man who produces his milk. The problem is his government, which does not help him plan. Beyond putting his milk in milk, let us produce milk, add value, sell it to Cameroon, moderately cheap credit. 2, do planning for those people that do not have the capacity to plan. All you have to do is to make, because they normally say the budget is a political document, just get money, some little money, throw it around the population and call it PDM. And you say, this is the magic bullet. At some point, there are people who are advised, do vanilla. Others, you just rear these millipedes or whatever, you know. So it is a game of gambling. Actually, if I were the president, at some point I would say, we are not going to do any development budget for. We want procedural compliance as against results to the OPM. I don't know why some people like Andrew Mwenda fear processes and procedures. Just say these processes are for less. Indeed, repaired the building for less, saved government money, you know, because somebody woke up as Saul and slept as Paul. So we are nowhere near.
Okay, thank you. Let me come to Honorable Justine.
Yes, please. So I want to correct the old Uganda when it comes to projects. There's so much power to the landowners. These guys, for example, some of the concrete sleepers and a number of things, they needed to literally put up factories first, slap these contracts in the face, but
The contract was taken away from him.
give too much power, corrupt. The only instance where I would agree with Andrew is the bureaucracies. I don't agree with Honorable Segona that the supplier has to go to over which officer, then go to which commissioner, then go under which table, then run back up which roof. You are just creating fight against corruption. For example, the other day we were in Chankwanzi, and the National Planning Authority, which Honorable Segona full business English terms, but I was very shocked that in the piecemeal kind of approach to development, focus he has used on the other issues, we can actually curb corruption. We can actually, she was the line minister. If the Prime
These
Minister,
were given to the office of the Prime Minister.
Office of the Prime Minister, but under which line?
How do you justify that? What do the next 5 years look like in your view? Hearing the President speak yesterday, 2026 to 2031, does it give you hope or a picture that has a bit of grey in it?
Thank you very much, Timothy and the fellow panelists. Indeed, today has been a great day where we've been celebrating the first batch of members of parliament that have been sworn in. And of course, they have been making promises. Some of them we had all listened to them make promises. Yeah, the first 5 years, personally, I would like to look at it from the angle of service delivery. Okay? So, you know, in the past, you would have MPs campaigning and promising anything. But this time, even on the campaign trail, people have tried to be very consistent about service delivery, mainly looking at issues of education, looking at issues of Right Honorable Prime Ministers, who are really emphasizing issues of integrity, issues of dignity, issues of service delivery, because what people actually need is services more than anything else. And of course, I also earlier on listened to a colleague, what have become a challenge when you come to some of those difficult terrains. So that we are having members of parliament like Bruce Balabakabasa, you're having like not Right Honorable, Honorable Sylvia, Honorable KP, those are the three I've interfaced with today, really talking about service delivery and some of those things. And if I take that as just an indicator of some of those people who will be there, I believe the next parliament is going to focus on service delivery. And if it does that, then we shall resolve some of the delivery. And if it does that, then we shall resolve some of the things. And your question, related to what the president said. Of course, the president did emphasize issues of security and crime and the fact that we should distinguish between security and peace. And that even if you don't have like active war, but you have these petty crimes going on, there is destabilized investment. The other thing he emphasized was discipline and the need for us to be disciplined, because without discipline, a lot of things would go wrong. And he talked about many things, but one of the things which caught me very well was on the issue of unemployment and job creation. And the fact that if you have, is it 40 million acres of land? And if you did put 40 million acres of land, and if you did put effort in agriculture, and that was on the whims of PDM, you could actually create 105 million jobs. And of course, we are a very big population. We are not yet 100 million, but we also know that there's a lot of unemployment. And the unemployment then drives or reduces the gains like for education and other things. And I've been doing some work in Rwanda, and recently we were addressing teachers. And we're asking the teachers, for example, how many children do you have in P1 at enrollment level? And I was doing this with Bruce. And at enrollment level, you have 200 plus students, children coming in enrolling at P1. And by P7, you have like 23 to 30. 23 to yes. 30. The majority of those are girls, because you get more than 180 lost in the system. Of course, we're talking about a rural, Rwanda West is a rural constituency, so it may not be reflective of your Kampala. And some of the mines or work in a hotel, for the girls get pregnant, come to Mubende, cut timber, go to Kampala, do all more emphasis with regard to service delivery, and more emphasis with regard to job creation, because the younger population, the younger people are growing in number. We need to have them gainfully employed. I am not one who is very, very skeptical. Each time I think a leader makes a national pronouncement, I try to be hopeful, because elsewhere in the world they are making these national pronouncements and we are being hopeful. Why should we be skeptical here? Give them a benefit of doubt. If they fail, we shall be here to critique it. But we cannot hit that, and yet when Trump and the rest make those statements, we outrightly believe them. Let's give them a benefit of doubt and do our work as citizens. And then, of course, the other thing, I know a lot of things are attributed to the leader, because we come from a background where we say it rises and falls with leadership. But as a person who teaches institutional transformation, we also need to remember that it's not only the leader, it is also how are those who are led normalizing a certain practice. If you're caught on the wrong side, Timothy, for having, maybe speaking on your phone while driving, and the police actually want to implement the law, you'll be the first to negotiate out and say, you see, you know, I was busy, as you can see, and sometimes you exchange something small. Now, that doesn't take a national leader. That takes our behaviors as a people. So there is a level of national responsibility, of leadership responsibility, but there's also a level of responsibility as a people. What are we as citizens, okay? What values do we uphold? Most of these things that we uphold, whether it's nepotism, whether it's corruption, whether it's not actually being leader-driven. But I think all of those will be anchored when we focus on wealth creation, when we focus on growing this economy. Of course, it is, so for these 5 years, personally, I'm hopeful. It is about appropriating the budget. And of course, we shall always be here looking at how they appropriate the budget for us to see where actually their priorities are, whether they are walking the talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let me come to Professor Walunywa. Professor, a lot of models have been crafted, especially on poverty alleviation. You know, as reading up some of those, Brazil, 2003, China, 2012 to 2020, but the most famous one is the one of Bangladesh that was between 2002 onwards there, and it had a multifaceted solution to solve those problems. PDM, Honorable Justin just mentioned it, they're going to increase the money from 100 million to about 300 or 500 million per parish. It looks like it's supply-led and not demand-led. There's no market for it. Is this the solution, as she said, a silver bullet in these next 5 years when you look at it?
Okay, thank you. First of all, we normally say don't look back and go to the front, but we need to appreciate the economic policy that has been in place, that the country is liberalized. Very important. It has been able to give you the growth we are seeing. I think my friend, the PSST, indicated that in the last quarter we had an 8% growth of GDP, which is wonderful. But who is growing it and who is benefiting from it? Do you see PDM in it? You don't see PDM in it. And I think if 20 to 30% of our GDP is still agriculture, and for self-consumption, I've seen, I think the Minister of Finance has said, can we monetize agriculture? Very important. But you're not going to monetize it by giving some money to the families. The transformation, for instance, we've done a study on maize. If you are going to benefit from maize, less than 10 acres, you're wasting your time. So if you want to transform agriculture, we should be able to increase production and productivity. True, the 4-acre model is ideal in terms of removing abject poverty from the public. But it will not transform, it will not give the country the growth that you need to be able to get the country to grow much faster. By the way, one of our problems is population growth, which nobody is talking about. I mean, the GDP we have is so much, but the denominator, the population, is, and they will never make a contribution to economic transformation. So I would rather put, it's very important to put money, first of all, into education. Let's educate them. I've given you here something to do with entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is about innovation. Now, if somebody that has not reached P7, what are the ideas they are bringing on board? So the next 5 years, if we fix the infrastructure, which is a very big problem still. I mean, I have electricity in my house, works for possibly 4 hours a day. If we don't fix that, then I cannot even produce. Forget about productivity, just simply taking the lower end of the jobs. Can we be able to share in the good jobs? Because he's done a very good job with iron ore, for instance. Iron ore, there's so much in this country, and we are not exporting, it outside the country to be able to produce steel. But what are the jobs we are creating at the moment? I mean, it's just laborers. If this can change, the jobs will be there. But then the quality of the labor force for some time will be very, very poor.
But let's talk about poverty alleviation before I come to Honorable Ape. What model, because Professor has really hinted on something. If 200,000 young people show up for P1 and 180,000 don't show up at P7, that's a very big concern. How do we help?
200 to 180.
Yes, 70%.
I'm talking about a rural district. I gave a district of Rwanda. I was specific about the teachers I'm working with and the schools I'm working with.
The honorable MP you need to go to the Ministry of Education website. It's there. It's not. I'm not getting figures from.
How do we help those? Because that 70% is a big chunk.
Yes.
And a big problem if we look at the future of this country. What model can work to support the schools?
Yes.
No PLOE centers, no houses for teachers.
Remove examinations. It's one of my recommendations somewhere. Remove PLE.
Doctor, I know you have done.
Congratulate the president for his 8th term, right? And the work that has been, 9th or 8th or 9th term. Okay, great. I think we need to all appreciate, as the citizens of this country, that we've come from far, and we are still going very far. And so, and we are still going very far. And so, and nations grow gradually. Definitely, we're not going to expect to grow, that at a go. And even countries like China, like all these countries we have studied in economics, it's a gradual process. So we really need to appreciate that much that we've gone. And I like all the colleagues' kind of analysis of what has been going on in the country. Now, the president yesterday, but also across the country as he was moving, he basically emphasized on how we can bring the majority of the population to the man economy. Ugandans have now moved away from the promises. I think you talked about it, the hakuna mchezo, the no sleep, the corruption and all that. I think what Ugandans are looking for now is how do they engage and participate in that man economy where they can be productive, where they can produce not only for food but to make some money. I'm a fan of the macroeconomics figures, the growth, the 8%, all that is happening. But I've always gone down to ask that, does that 8% translate in the lives of that villager, in my village in Amolata? Do they even know that yesterday I had 1,000, today I have 8,000? Now for me, we need to get to that level. How do these numbers translate in the lives of our people? And the president has been so consistent in his messages about the transformation agenda of this country. And for me, I think the focus from now the political stability, we now need to move to how do we transform the lives. And I think we've started on a good note with some of these social action funds around the country. I think the owners now come back to, for me, the main issue is efficiency of our government system and governance structure. Are the systems, the institutions of government actually responsive to all these promises, to all these policies, to all these national development plans? I think we're in the fourth one. Is our systems actually responsive? I sat in the budget committee for the last 5 years. And you'll see certificates of alignment of how budgets are aligned to the National Development Plan. And my colleague Mendel has told you, but if you go now to the direct implementation, you're going to go there and find completely different from what was in the paper. So I think the focus should be to translate now the policies and the pronouncements that the president has made. How do we hold our institutions of government accountable and to ensure that these implementations are translated into the aspirations of Ugandans? And I think the other big aspects also is the inclusive growth. If we say we are growing, if we say man economy, how prepared are we that everybody is actually included or are part of this process? Other than talking about some percentage, having sympathy, we are very poor, or these ones have done this, what are those specific actions that we are actually putting in place to ensure that those gaps are there? Definitely the issue of corruption is big. It's big on the table. And if the figures of IGG is true, that 10 trillion in every financial year, then that's a huge number. Our health budget is about 3.2, isn't it?
1/3 of the taxes.
Thank you. It's almost 1/3 of the taxes. So that 10 trillion, even if we just got 50% of it, that would build the more schools that we are lacking. That would go and build the more hospitals we are lacking. So I like the theme, the no sleep, and the hakuna mchezo of last time. Actually, I think hakuna mchezo, some much as people, some others played, but I think we saw some work being done. This no sleeping is what I'm really waiting for. I hope that the no sleeping is going to be about efficiency, about productivity of our people, about the corruption, about accountability. If only our institutions of government and all of us, the citizens of this country, could be accountable to ourselves, to our families, and to our nation. Okay. It's really a kind of a personal conviction and commitment that, yes, as a leader, he has given us the vision. It's upon us at all levels to take that vision and really make it work for the people. I point up to them. But I think as citizens of this country, I think we also need to start, you know, asking for accountability. Why would your father come back? You know that my father works in government, and these days children can know how much salary you get. And then you see big cars, I don't even know names, being parked and everything. From household level, can we start being accountable? And also asking questions. We should start asking questions to all this that is happening around us. So for me, I think we shouldn't now, our citizens are now looking at not judging leadership by statements, by positions, but by titles.
Thank you.
But citizens now want to see results in terms of roads, in terms of healthcare services, in terms of you know, having medicine and having teachers to teach our people, but also have jobs and all these kind of things. So I hope the no sleep is about seeing the results.
Okay. Let me read some feedback that has come through here. One says, good evening, Timothy. Thank you for the show. My name is Isaac from Lira. I am grateful that you're speaking about this, but the biggest part of the panel today is inspirational. I love how factual they are, but also how factual Andrew is. But I do not know why sometimes he sits back. He needs to get involved directly and have a ministry to lead. Andrew. To the Honorable Segona, commodity exporter to an integrated industry power. With farm owners, cooperatives, unions, sub-counties, we can jump to 7.4 to 9.6 billion annually. Currently, the foreign exchange is low. To deliver this inclusivity, all of us need to work together and have a downstream architect. Okay, this is Job Collins. Finally, the president presented Uganda as his will. He wishes to be done to fight against corruption. However, complicated, corrupt individuals are also strategizing today and tomorrow night. They'll continue looting Ugandans. It's easier said than done. Let's wait and see what will happen in the next 100 days of this new chapter. Poor Ugandans need to action and stop speaking loud. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll spend a lot of time speaking about corruption.
And that's it for today. Till the next episode.
Like a daily bando, like a daily bando, like a daily bando. Omuliro nguwulira muli mu mutima kukankana like drums. Kalakata, kalakata, endungu ya kusabula. Mikono juu, free of fire, free of fire, free of fire.
It's back, bigger, and with more business opportunities. It's the Pearl of Africa Tourism Expo, Poate 2026, Uganda's flagship tourism event. Poate 2026 will take place from the 21st to the 23rd of May 2026 at the Speak Resort Convention Center, Munyonyo, under the theme Wanderlust. It's your time to thrive. Yes, it's your time to tap into Uganda's renewed optimism and tourism growth. Tourism stakeholders, travel trade partners, and tourism enthusiasts will be part of the Poate 2026. Come and network with like-minded people and unlock new business opportunities. To participate, register at www.poate.co.ug. Poate 2026 is brought to you by Uganda Tourism Board and partners.
The government's core mandate is to maintain law and order, safeguard citizens' rights.
This complicated procedure involve the lawyers. You bring the case against him, the judge will hear you out,
and pass judgment, and you're out of court in record time.
We remain committed to keeping you informed and engaged on key national matters.
So these are huge, these are powerful organizations which now Uganda chairs. Why don't you come together?
If we haven't migrated to the e-card because of various reasons, including that not all the people of Uganda have smartphones.
You can sit in your house, apply for a passport.
If you have a Ugandan who has a successful logistics firm in the US, it means he can come to Uganda and do a lot more.
Every Monday at 8:30 p.m. with me, Jethro Kasaiji, your interface with the government only on your public broadcaster, UBC, Inspiring Uganda.
Welcome back from that quick commercial break here on Behind the Headlines. My name is Timothy Nyangweso. I'm joined by Honorable Justin Namere. I'm joined by the Honorable Medard Lugubega Segona, Andrew Mwenda, the old man of the clan, the Honorable Dr. Ape Ati Magnus, Professor Waswa Balunywa, and Professor Sarah Sali. But these two messages caught my eye, so I need to read them. One says, the Honorable Segona should come and join us now in our party because we're ready for his wisdom, okay? And Honorable Justin, I think you're jumping the gun. Someone here says, tell the Honorable Justin Namere she's ministerial material. I request her, when she gets it, to ask the President to pardon Honorable Nandutu. Over to you. Let me come to Andrew. Andrew, we have been here, and I remember we had a conversation about corruption last year. And you mentioned it almost sustains this government in the way it is. Why has this animal failed to be nipped in any way possible?
Now, how do I answer such a complicated question?
40 years.
Yes. You see, I think the feeling is that, look at this war between Iran and the United States. It is to subordinate the will of the state of Kenya to the will of the state of Uganda. That's the essence of a war between countries. That I must beat you so badly so that I dictate the terms. So whether we blockade Mombasa port, bomb Nairobi, or occupy Eldoret, each of these actions must be weighed against the aim. How do they contribute to the overall aim of subordinating the will of the state of Kenya to the will of the state of Uganda? Otherwise, you can bomb a country to the will of the state of Kenya to the will of the state of Uganda. Otherwise, you can bomb a country to the Stone Age like America. Aim is to focus on the result that you want. Earlier I said, aim is to focus on the result that you want. Earlier I said, we have accountability for procedures instead of accountability for results. I'm not against procedures at all. I become against procedures for two reasons. One, procedures can be arcane and archaic. They can be self-contradictory and backward. That is one. Two, they can even defeat the very purpose for which you set them there. In any case, procedures implemented by human beings, so human beings can manipulate them as they wish. So once you have set the aim, the role of procedures to say, did the procedures help you achieve that aim? So it comes to my great-grandson, Segona here. You know, I'm the grandfather of his father. I come to this issue. I'm not against procedures. I want people to understand that. But if the adherence to procedures undermines the aim, because procedures are a means to an end, not an end. In Uganda, procedures are an end. In many countries, actually, bureaucratic procedures become an end, and that's what we need to look at. They should always remain a means to an end. If they cannot help you achieve that end, then they must be reformed and you put procedures that allow you to achieve the end. When you turn procedures into the end themselves, you get stuck. So we come to corruption. I don't even want to deal with it. What do I want as Museveni? And this is where Museveni fails. I have the Minister of Works called Segona and his PS and his team. Did you deliver the right quality of road at a competitive price in the agreed time frame? Those are the three questions. If you begin trying to enter, did he take a commission? Did he do this? Those things you will be investigating. Because you see, corruption has two things. It has a double coincidence of criminality. The giver and the recipient have committed a crime. Am I correct?
Correct.
It also has a double coincidence of profitability or benefit. The giver and the recipient both have profited from it or benefited from it, right? None of them is willing to reveal the other because of the double coincidence of benefit and the double coincidence of criminality. So it is very difficult to prove that somebody took a bribe. And for me, I feel like that's why Uganda has hit a dead end. We have the anti-corruption unit at State House. Am I correct? We have the IGG. Am I correct? We have the DPP. We have CID. We have CMI, it intervenes in these things. We have social media. We have Auditor General. We have in fact, in 2015, I looked at Uganda's budget. The fourth largest budgetary item in Uganda was accountability sector. It was the fourth largest after, I think, education, defense, health. The fourth was accountability. So, although the country is sinking under the weight of corruption, it has so many anti-corruption institutions. That's nonsense.
No, it could be worse, Andrew. If there was no watchdogs in this country, it could be worse.
Because
Ugandans are just obsessed with stealing.
My granddaughter.
Yes.
My granddaughter.
You wouldn't be losing 10
Can you allow me to speak?
I've allowed you, grandfather. I'm sorry.
So let me tell you, I think if there are Ugandans with experience on studying corruption in this country that are more than me, I can count them on the fingers of my one palm, like this. In fact, let me tell you, the biggest source of corruption, the accountability institutions, including Parliament, the Public Accounts Committee and all other oversight committees, increase corruption, they don't reduce it. I think that to reduce corruption in Uganda, we need to cut the institutions of oversight and institutions of accountability by 90%. Let me illustrate for you, Parliament. Assuming I'm a permanent secretary, I have been stealing money in the ministry. Now, the Auditor General comes to investigate me. You can buy off those guys when they come. You can pay. 2, when I'm going to appear before PAC, so the Auditor General's report is already compromised, but they may have 20 or 15% of my theft there. Before I appear before PAC, I send money up front to the members of PAC. You may reach there and they do theater for public purposes, but in their final report, they will exonerate you. You can pay in advance. Right? So it is not true that these institutions become new layers of corruption. If I do a procurement, you can go and bribe IGG, you can bribe PPD to get the result you want. It is not true that because they're accountability institutions, they are manned by non-Ugandans who have come from Japan and are honest. She has already said it herself that Ugandans are thieves. So you're asking a thief to catch another thief? Or what is that? Yes, I'm telling you, if you want to reduce corruption in Uganda and wastage, you have to cut down all this nonsense called accountability. And once you have cut it, then you need to have a very strict president. I hope one day a person like him takes over control of the state. Because I know him personally. This is nonsense he cannot tolerate. He will demand, I want the result. So in Uganda, we don't demand results. Because ultimately, when we take you to court, we can say, did he follow every procedure? Yes. But the road was not built. Or what was built cracked in 3 days. It is this lack of attention to results. Earlier I was telling you about the standard gauge railway. Again, in this country, there is a man called KK, Kasinja something. He was head of, you should talk to him. There could be not more than 20 people who are better informed about SGR than me. That railway was supposed to begin construction in 2017. 2017. When this process started around 2012, my granddaughter there was talking about compensation. Yes, why don't you compensate people all those days? If they are blocking your way, okay, how come you disregarded due process similar to achieve the ends he wants? And this is my criticism of him. In fact, I think that Ugandans would have appreciated Museveni much, much more. I don't care whether he ruled for 500 years, I tell you. But if he demonstrated to Ugandans that when it comes to serving the interests of Ugandans, whether it is to ensure that a road is done, a dam is built, the healthcare system works, he's willing to go that extra mile that he goes through to protect power. Now, of course, I can be fair to him and say, if you're Museveni, you have a vision, you cannot achieve your vision when you have been overthrown or defeated an election, you are in jail or exile or in Wachtura. So holding and retaining power is a very important factor in a leader's desire to achieve a vision. I understand that. But when the strategies and tactics and the means you employ to retain power defeat the very purpose for which you want that power, which is the transformation of Uganda, Does that make sense? Unless you say power is an end in itself. But if you are looking at power as a means to an end, as I think M7 does, and then the strategies you're employing to retain that power undermine your ability to achieve that end, that's a loss of strategy. You see, so this is where my criticism comes, that ultimately, Uganda has failed. There are structural bottlenecks that make it difficult for a person in Museveni's shoes to achieve a lot of the results that we always expect. Both human resource, our ethnic fragmentation, you get. But I'm also aware that even putting into consideration the structural constraints that he faces, there is sufficient room for agency to achieve the very minimum, like to achieve the very minimum, like to ensure that you have actual roads, those that you can build are maintained, that you have certain institutions like Malago or Makerere University that are well managed and remain at a particular standard. And so sometimes we get so consumed by looking at structural constraints on leaders, we forget the role of agency, leadership in achieving particular ends. So Uganda has these problems in large part because I think that at the managerial level or at the level of strategy, Museveni has been, I consider him to be one of the greatest strategists. This is the problem. But in terms of strategy for transformation, I have found him really, really, really weak because he has allowed bureaucratic inertia to block his vision. He has made so many compromises that have undermined his ability to achieve his vision, significantly crippled it. In that sense, he has turned himself into a very good navigator. You know, moving on a ship. Has any one of you moved on a ship? There are two people. There is a navigator who navigates the ship to its destination. Then there's what they call a seamanship. Seamanship is the ability to keep the ship afloat. So he has been a very good seaman. He has been very good at seamanship, keeping the ship of state afloat. But he has been very poor at navigation, which is navigating that ship to a particular port, which is your destination.
So let me put a question to you. Someone suggested the ministry for you, but what would the next cabinet in the next 5 years to deliver what you were speaking about look like?
So the most important resource of any country is its human resource. I can tell you can be like South Korea or Japan, you have no minerals, no agricultural potential, no forest potential, nothing, and still be a highly advanced country. What are his competencies to do that job and deliver the trade you want? Who is your minister of ICT? We are living in a modern technology. There is, I think, a minister who is responsible for ICT, a minister of state, a lady, I'm told she was a hair salon owner or something. Whatever she is, that is your human resource. Sebugwa or something like that. So the bottom line is this. And I don't want to just even, you can as well have those ministers, but maybe they can be Protestants. To have Sarah Sally because the women's vote is there. The Catholics, Museveni has to juggle so many things anyway. And Mr. President, I understand you perfectly well. I'm not blind to the necessary political compromises you have to make in order to hold this country together and ensure that...
Why do you hold Ugandans accountable? Because, I mean, it feels like in your mind, Museveni is supposed to like literally do everything in everybody's home and get everybody to do it. And he's an overseer, he's a CEO.
My granddaughter, please, me, I'm the best person when it comes to interrupting. You may fail to speak when I begin to interrupt you. So I don't interrupt anybody and I don't expect you. So
even interrupt himself.
I learned from the grandfather.
So the point I am making is this, that he ran to be president, to be chief executive, and we have to hold him to account because I am not the one who appoints ministers. He's the one who appoints them. Ugandans and the parliament don't appoint these ministers, these are appointed by him. And a lot of his choices of prime minister, minister and all this fall far below what this country is capable of fielding and achieving a lot of the aims. So, Mr. President, my advice to you, me, I'm an old man. Museveni is 81, I am 113 years. So I'm about 32 years older than him. In fact, I'm old enough to be his grandfather. I have a niece who became a grandmother at 31. So, the point I want to make is this, that ultimately, Ugandans must see in the selection of ministers, of permanent secretaries, of heads of government institutions, the best that this country has produced. Me, I have been to Google, I have been to Apple, I have been to every top company, Oracle, you have Microsoft, you find Ugandans in top positions. I was in Japan one time, I found the head of their self-driving motor division is a Ugandan, Laurel Yombi. Was working in Google, then but you're building a company called Kira. Kira. Why? Okay, at least you can call him and consult him. You go to Detroit, isn't that the headquarters of General Motors? The head of the procurement division, the head of the procurement division for electric vehicles, he's a Ugandan, a cousin to the facility. Why don't you call him here? To help, he speaks to you about cars and you say, wow, but we are building one. Why don't you look for this talent? So I have an issue with Uganda's approach to human resources. Human resource is our greatest thing. Our human beings, our talented Ugandans are the ones that will bring transformation. No amount of oil in the ground, iron ore, whatever.
We were at the conference center, the late Honorable Cecilia Timogwal. When the president was addressing us, he talked about members of parliament bribing or giving money to voters. The Honorable late Cecilia Timogwal said, but you're the one giving out envelopes. Now, the knee-jerk reaction from the president was that, for me, I'm the president, you are not. You can't afford it. You can imagine, it was spontaneous. And with hindsight, he said, but even me, as the president, I am finding it very heavy on me. So I'm not saying the president is corrupt. Now, turning to what the grandson here, who loves addressing himself in a more prestigious way, says, the human resource. At the beginning of the 8th term of office, President Museveni said that he had brought a cabinet of fishermen. You'd see them upon appointment running to Chiembe to get their tailors, you know, sew some beautiful vitenge for them. Who said I'm complaining? Now, he set the marking scheme, and we are marking him by that guide. And let me be very, very honest, I think brutally honest. I don't like talking about individuals in my practice. In the last 15 years, anyone who has seen me talk, I avoid talking about individuals. And this is the first time I'm going to talk about my very own friend. If you have the Prime Minister of the Republic of Uganda outgoing, go to the deputies, experienced, including a former Speaker of Parliament. The other deputies, General Moses Ali. Andrew Mwenda has talked about Honorable Mwebesa of Trade. At some point, we had the Honorable Magode Ikuya. The other minister was the Honorable, the gentleman from Chisoro?
Mateke.
Mzee Mateke. Then when you go to the young ones, you're bringing in Andutu. Clearly, those could not deliver us if that was his vision. But let's even talk about the president. The president is a very qualified person for the presidency in terms of experience, in terms of strategy and brain. But look at age. There is a limit that is brought by age. It's natural. I am praying every day to get to that age. I hold General Museveni in very high esteem because of what he has been able to achieve for himself, but I'm also told for the country. Namere.
Yes.
Namere has told me.
I'm glad you were listening.
in the commercial break.
Really?
Oh, you've told me before. Has been following. I think I have produced the biggest number of reports in the life of Park. And Professor Balunyo has appeared before me. Anyone who